Welcome to our deep dive into Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, this is going to be good.
You've given us quite a stack of excerpts, so you're ready to unlock the secrets to better relationships and influence, huh?
I am. Are you?
Always. And even though this book was published almost a century
A
ago,
long time ago.
it's amazing how relevant the advice still is today.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's fascinating is that Carnegie didn't just invent these principles, he built them from his own experiences,
Yeah.
teaching public speaking and just observing people, successful people.
Right.
And he even backed up his ideas with, scientific research, which was pretty forward-thinking
For sure.
for the time.
Well, I noticed you've included some excerpts about some pretty intriguing figures,
Oh, yeah.
like Abraham Lincoln, John D. Rockefeller Sr., and even John Dillinger. Talk about a range.
A diverse group of people.
So I can't wait to see how these timeless principles played out in their lives.
Well, yeah, looking at how these principles were applied in such different contexts
Hmm.
can really help us understand, I think, the core human desires at play.
Yeah.
Like the need for appreciation and connection.
Exactly.
Even though societal norms change,
Of course.
those fundamental needs remain constant.
Okay, so let's unpack the first section of your excerpts.
Okay.
Fundamental techniques in handling people.
All right.
And it jumps right in with this powerful message. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain.
Right out of the gate.
And to illustrate this, Carnegie, he tells this chilling story about a cop killer named Crowley.
Oh, wow.
And what's striking is that even after committing such a horrific act, Crowley still believed he had a kind heart.
Oh, interesting.
So the story really dives into, I think, the psychological reasons why people resist criticism, even when they're clearly in the wrong.
Yeah.
It all comes down to, protecting their ego and self-image.
Makes sense.
It makes you think about how we handle criticism ourselves, doesn't it?
That does.
I mean, we're so quick to get defensive and justify our actions.
Yeah.
So how do we get past those defenses, both in ourselves and others, when we need to give or receive constructive criticism?
Oh, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
I think so.
Well, Carnegie suggests that understanding the psychology behind defensiveness is the first step.
Okay.
So when we criticize someone, we're essentially attacking their sense of self-worth.
Right.
So it triggers a fight or flight response,
Right, yeah.
making them less likely to actually listen
Makes sense.
or change their behavior.
It makes sense when you put it that way. It's like trying to reason with someone when they're in full-blown panic mode.
Exactly, yeah. So instead of attacking, Carnegie suggests focusing on understanding.
Okay.
And he was heavily influenced by the work of B.F. Skinner, a pioneer in behavioral psychology.
Okay.
And Skinner's research on operant conditioning showed that rewarding desired behaviors
Interesting.
is far more effective than punishing undesirable ones.
So instead of berating someone for their mistakes,
Yeah.
we should focus on acknowledging and encouraging their positive actions.
Precisely. And this isn't just some feel-good philosophy. This is backed by scientific evidence.
I like it.
Think about how you respond to positive reinforcement
Sure.
versus punishment. Which one motivates you more?
Yeah.
Which one makes you feel more respected and valued?
For sure. Yeah. You got a point there. It's a lot easier to swallow constructive criticism
Yeah.
when it's delivered with a spoonful of sugar.
Right.
And to illustrate this, Carnegie gives an example of a safety coordinator, George B. Johnston,
Okay.
who struggled to enforce hard hat rules
Yeah.
using, a more authoritative approach.
Right.
But when he switched to a more positive
Right.
and understanding tone,
Yeah.
he saw a huge improvement in compliance.
It's a classic example of how a shift in approach
Yeah.
can lead to a much better outcome.
For sure.
By acknowledging the workers' perspectives and focusing on the benefits of wearing hard hats, Johnston was able to achieve his goal without resorting to, threats or punishment.
The next principle really resonates with me.
Okay.
Give honest and sincere appreciation.
I like that one.
It seems so simple, yet we often forget to do it.
It's easy to get caught up in our own lives and forget to acknowledge the good in others.
Yeah.
But, appreciation is a powerful force.
Mm-hmm.
It fuels connection. It boosts morale. It inspires positive action.
Oh, yeah.
Carnegie contrasts the approaches of John D. Rockefeller Sr.
Okay.
and John Dillinger.
Oh, wait. John Dillinger, the notorious gangster. What does he have to do with appreciation?
Interesting, right. So while Rockefeller built his empire through, hard work and philanthropy,
Right.
seeking recognition for his contributions to society, Dillinger sought importance.
Okay.
Through notoriety and fear,
Okay.
Both men craved a feeling of significance,
I see what you mean.
but their methods had vastly different consequences.
It's like seeking validation in all the wrong places. It's a reminder that we all crave appreciation.
Right.
But seeking it through negative means
Yeah,
is ultimately self-destructive.
absolutely.
And this principle isn't just about grand gestures or historical figures.
Yeah,
It's about those everyday interactions with colleagues, friends, family.
for sure.
You know, taking a moment to acknowledge someone's efforts,
Yeah.
express gratitude for their presence,
Hmm.
or simply let them know how much you appreciate them can make a world of difference.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Carnegie shares this compelling story about a man who almost criticized his wife, but
Oh,
caught himself just in time.
okay.
Instead of focusing on her flaws,
Right.
he chose to appreciate her good qualities.
Okay.
What struck me is that this wasn't some grand romantic gesture,
No.
but a simple shift in mindset.
And the impact was profound.
It was, yeah.
By choosing appreciation over criticism,
Yeah,
he not only avoided a potential conflict,
right.
but also strengthened their bond and deepened their connection.
It's a good reminder that sometimes the smallest acts of appreciation can have the biggest ripple effect.
For sure.
But I'm curious, where do we draw the line between genuine appreciation and, like, empty flattery?
That's an important distinction.
It is.
Carnegie is very clear that flattery is insincere
Right.
and ultimately harmful.
Yeah.
It's about manipulating someone for personal gain.
Right.
Sincere appreciation, on the other hand,
Yeah.
comes from a place of genuine respect and admiration.
Mm-hmm.
It's about recognizing the good in others and expressing that appreciation authentically.
Okay. On to the third principle in this section.
Let's hear it.
Arouse in the other person an eager want.
Oh, I like this one.
And Carnegie uses this fantastic analogy here involving Ralph Waldo Emerson and his son trying to get a calf into a barn.
Okay, this sounds fun.
So this story perfectly illustrates, I think, the principle of arousing an eager want in the other person.
Okay.
Emerson and his son were so focused on their own goal, right, of
Yeah.
getting the calf into the barn, that they completely failed to consider the calf's perspective.
Oh, interesting.
And they pushed and pulled.
Yeah,
But the calf, just like them, was only thinking about what it wanted.
right. Of course.
It's so easy to fall into that trap, isn't it?
It is.
We get so fixated on what we want
Yeah.
that we forget to consider the other person's needs and desires.
Absolutely. That's where we go wrong.
Exactly.
To influence someone, we need to speak to their wants and desires,
Right.
not just our own.
Right.
Carnegie highlights this story about a hotel manager who was raising rents by a whopping 300%.
Wow.
And instead of pleading his own case, the tenant focused on the manager's interest and needs.
That's an interesting approach.
Right.
Most people would probably just start by arguing about the unfairness of the rent increase.
Yeah, most people would just go straight to the,
Right.
this is unfair.
Yeah.
But this tenant was smarter. He acknowledged the manager's responsibility to generate profit and even helped him list the potential downsides of such a steep increase.
Okay.
Like losing good tenants, creating bad publicity.
Yeah.
By approaching the situation from the manager's perspective,
Yeah.
he was able to negotiate a much more favorable outcome.
I bet.
The rent increase was lowered to 50%.
It's a testament to the power of empathy and understanding and persuasion.
Absolutely.
It's not about manipulating someone into doing what you want.
No.
It's about finding a solution that benefits both parties.
Exactly.
Now, Carnegie then contrasts this successful negotiation with this poorly written letter
Oh,
from a radio department manager,
okay.
full of I statements and self-centered demands.
A classic example of what not to do.
It's a cringeworthy example of how not to communicate effectively.
It is.
The letter comes across as arrogant and dismissive,
Right.
completely ignoring the recipient's perspective.
Right.
So it's no surprise that it failed to achieve its intended outcome.
No.
In contrast, Carnegie highlights the success of Barbara L. Anderson's job search letter.
Oh, good for her.
Instead of focusing on her own qualifications and needs, she flipped the script
Okay.
and highlighted how she could benefit potential employers.
I like it.
The result,
Tell me.
multiple interview offers.
Yeah.
It's like she turned the tables and became the prize that everyone wanted to win.
Exactly, yeah.
So by focusing on the value she could bring to the table, she made herself irresistible to potential employers.
Well said. It's a powerful reminder
Yeah.
that the key to influence is shifting our focus
Yeah.
from what do I want to what does the other person want.
That seems to be the common thread running through all of these principles. It's about understanding and appealing to the other person's desires and motivations.
That's the essence of influence, creating a win-win situation where both parties feel understood, respected, and valued.
This is fascinating.
Yeah,
I'm
right?
already seeing these principles play out in my own life.
I bet you are.
Now let's move on to part 2, where we delve into 6 ways to make people like you.
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm guessing this section will have more stories about interesting people and those small actions
Yeah.
that have a big impact.
You bet. Carnegie had a knack for finding wisdom
Yeah.
in the most unexpected places.
Okay.
From historical figures to everyday people and
Big
even
time.
animals.
Oh, wow.
Get ready for some heartwarming and inspiring stories. So that brings us to part 2 of your excerpts, 6 ways to make people like you.
Okay.
These principles are all about, building genuine connections and fostering those positive relationships.
Right.
It's not about manipulation or superficial charm.
Right.
It's about tapping into that fundamental human desire for connection and belonging.
Okay, I'm ready to dive into these 6 ways. What's the first one?
All right. The first principle is become genuinely interested in other people.
Okay.
And Carnegie kicks it off with a heartwarming story about a dog named Tippy.
A dog. I'm intrigued.
Leave it to Carnegie to find wisdom in the most unexpected places, right?
Oh, sure.
Tippy, it seems, was a natural-born friend maker.
Oh, okay.
Instinctively knowing how to win people over with his wagging tail and, infectious enthusiasm.
It's funny how animals can teach us so much about human interaction.
It really is.
We can learn a lot from their genuine, unfiltered expressions of affection and joy.
Absolutely.
But I'm guessing Carnegie doesn't just rely on canine wisdom for this principle.
You're right. He also shares the example of the magician Thurston,
Okay.
who attributed his immense success not just to his, magical skills,
Yeah.
but to his genuine interest in his audience.
Right.
He believed in giving his audience the very best he could because he was genuinely grateful for their presence and support.
It's like that saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's a good one.
When we feel like someone genuinely cares about us, we're more likely to trust them,
Yeah,
open up to them, be influenced by them.
exactly.
And that genuine interest can make all the difference,
It can. Yeah.
especially in professional settings.
Carnegie shares this anecdote
Yeah.
about a sales representative, Edward M. Sykes, Jr., who made a point of connecting with everyone in a store,
Okay.
from the owner
Oh, well.
down to the stock clerks.
Well, most salespeople are just focused on getting face time with the decision maker,
Right,
the person who can sign on the dotted line.
right, exactly.
Why do you think Sykes took this different approach?
Well, Sykes understood that building relationships with everyone,
Yeah.
not just those in positions of power,
Yeah.
was crucial for, long-term success.
Okay.
That genuine interest paid off when the store owner decided to switch suppliers.
So those strong relationships he had built with the employees helped him save the account.
Exactly, yeah. They went to bat for him,
Wow.
vouching for his character,
Yeah.
the quality of his products.
It's a powerful reminder that every interaction matters.
It does.
We never know who might be in a position to help us or hurt us down the line.
That's true. Right.
Building, a broad network of genuine connections seems like a smart strategy.
It is.
It's like diversifying your portfolio, but instead of stocks and bonds, you're investing in relationships.
I like that analogy. I like that a lot. Yeah. And this principle applies to all areas of life, not just business.
Right.
Carnegie even used this approach to secure speakers for his courses at the Brooklyn Institute
Okay.
by expressing genuine interest in the work of, busy authors and thought leaders. He was able to persuade them to share their time and expertise.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
People are more likely to say yes to someone who's genuinely interested in what they have to say.
Right.
It shows respect and appreciation for
Mhm.
their work.
And to wrap up this principle,
Okay.
Carnegie shares this touching story about a bank teller,
Okay.
Marie Petricello, who went above and beyond to show genuine concern for a customer whose mother was hospitalized.
Wow.
It wasn't part of her job description,
Right.
but she took the time to listen,
Yeah.
offer words of comfort,
Mhm.
and even follow up with the customer later to see how his mother was doing.
It's those small acts of kindness,
Yeah,
those human touches that make a lasting impression.
it is.
It's about seeing people as individuals, not just transactions
Yeah.
or tasks to be completed.
I agree.
Okay, what's the next principle?
The next principle is short but sweet. Smile.
You can't argue with that one, can you? A genuine smile can instantly brighten someone's day. It's a universal language of warmth and connection.
Carnegie compares it to the joy of seeing a dog wag its tail.
Ah,
It's an instinctive, unfiltered expression of happiness and affection that's just contagious.
yeah.
He even describes this adorable scene, a baby and a kitten in a vet's waiting room.
Yeah, that's an image that's sure to bring a smile to
Oh,
anyone's face.
I know, right?
So the baby's smile completely transformed the tense atmosphere of the waiting room,
Oh,
turning strangers into, friendly faces.
right.
It's a reminder that a simple smile can have a ripple effect,
Hmm.
spreading positivity and goodwill.
I like that. Yeah, it's like that saying, smile and the world smiles with you.
Exactly.
It's about creating a positive feedback loop where one person's smile inspires another and so on.
Exactly.
And Carnegie even brings in a story from a computer department manager, Robert Cryer, who secured a top PhD candidate simply by answering the phone with a smile.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think something as simple as a smile could make such a difference in a hiring decision.
Amazing.
It made the candidate feel welcomed,
Yeah.
valued,
Mm-hmm.
setting them apart from other companies that had a more formal and impersonal approach.
And it reminds me of that study that showed that smiling can actually make us feel happier.
I remember that one.
It's like a mind-body connection, right?
Yeah.
Where our outward expressions can influence our inner state.
Exactly.
And we can't forget the story of the stock exchange member
Mm-hmm.
who went from being a grouch
Okay.
to a happier and more successful person just by making a conscious effort to smile more.
It's a powerful reminder that our attitudes and expressions have a huge impact on our interactions with others.
Right.
If we want to attract positive people and experiences into our lives,
Mm-hmm.
we need to project positivity ourselves.
Absolutely.
But I imagine there's a difference between a genuine smile
Yeah.
and a forced grin.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Carnegie emphasizes that it's not about plastering on a fake smile.
Right.
It's about cultivating genuine warmth and positivity that shines through in our interactions.
Yeah.
A forced grin can actually have the opposite effect, making people feel uncomfortable or suspicious.
So it's about finding that authentic joy within ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and letting it radiate outwards.
I like that.
Okay, what's the next principle in our quest to make people like us?
This one's a classic. Remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language.
I could definitely relate to this one.
Oh, yeah.
It feels so good when someone remembers my name,
Yeah.
especially if I've only met them once or twice.
Right.
It makes me feel seen and acknowledged,
It does.
like I actually matter to them.
Right. It shows that you were paying attention, that you valued the interaction enough to remember that detail.
Right.
Carnegie highlights Jim Farley, who is known for his remarkable ability to remember names.
Wasn't he a prominent figure in politics?
Yes, he held several important positions, including Postmaster General under President Franklin D. Roosevelt,
Sure.
and his ability to remember names, even years after meeting someone,
Wow.
played a huge role in his success.
Wow.
It helped him build strong connections, garner support, and make people feel valued.
Well, Carnegie even shares a story about Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate, who discovered the power of remembering names as a young boy.
Oh, that's cute.
He used this skill to win over a group of rabbits.
Ah.
By naming each one, he made them feel special and gained their trust.
It's a charming story that highlights the power of acknowledging individuality, even in animals.
Right.
It shows that we all crave recognition and appreciation, regardless of our species.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's the story of the woman scowling behind the lunch counter.
Okay.
The customer remembered her name from a previous visit,
Okay.
and it instantly transformed her demeanor, turning her frown upside down.
It's amazing how such a simple act of recognition can break down barriers
Right.
and create a connection.
It's like you're saying, I see you, you matter to me. And who doesn't want to feel that way?
Right, good.
Okay, on to the next principle, which is particularly relevant, I think, in today's, fast-paced, distracted world.
Okay.
Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves.
This one's definitely a challenge for me.
Oh, yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in my own thoughts and agendas that I forget to truly listen to what the other person is saying.
It's a skill that takes practice,
Right.
but it's well worth the effort.
Yeah,
Truly listening to others is a rare and valuable gift.
it is.
It shows respect, it builds trust, and it opens the door to deeper understanding.
So Carnegie shares a story of a bridge party.
Okay.
where simply listening to someone talk about their travels
Mm-hmm.
led to, a positive and lasting impression.
It's a reminder that sometimes the best way to connect with someone is to simply shut up and listen.
Hard.
I know. I know. Let them share their stories, their passions, their experiences.
Yeah.
Don't interrupt with your own opinions or anecdotes. Just be present and attentive.
And then there's the story of the cantankerous customer
Yeah.
who spent hours ranting
Oh.
to a telephone representative. Instead of getting frustrated or defensive, the representative listened patiently and sympathetically.
And you won't believe what happened.
Tell me.
By the end of the interaction, the customer had calmed down and even invited the representative to join his newly formed Telephone Subscribers Protective Association.
That's amazing.
Talk about turning a negative situation into a positive one.
Right.
It just goes to show that sometimes people just need to be heard.
It's like that saying, a listening ear is often the only medicine needed.
That's true.
It's about creating a safe space
Mm-hmm.
for people to express themselves without judgment or interruption.
And speaking of being heard, Carnegie shares this inspiring story
Okay.
of a Western Union messenger boy
Okay.
who built his confidence and connections by writing to and listening to famous people.
Wow.
He actually corresponded with the likes of Ralph Waldo Emerson, Oliver Wendell Holmes, and even General Grant.
I'm amazed he had the audacity to reach out to such prominent figures.
He didn't just write to them either. He visited many of them in their homes.
Wow.
It's a testament to the power of initiative and genuine curiosity.
Yeah.
By reaching out and expressing his interest,
Yeah.
he opened doors that would have otherwise remained closed.
What an inspiring story.
Right.
It's a reminder that we often limit ourselves
Yeah.
by our own assumptions and fears. We
Right.
tell ourselves, oh, they're too busy, or they wouldn't be interested in talking to me.
Right.
But what if we challenged those assumptions
Yeah.
and reached out anyway?
Yeah.
What if we had the courage to connect with those who inspire us?
It's a question worth pondering.
It is.
You never know what amazing opportunities might arise from
Wow.
simply taking that first step and expressing your interest.
Exactly.
Okay, moving on to the next principle. Talk in terms of the other person's interests.
This one goes hand in hand with being a good listener, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
It's about taking that extra step
Mm-hmm.
to understand what makes the other person tick,
Yeah.
what they're passionate about, what matters to them.
Exactly.
And it's about going beyond just listening and actively engaging with their interests.
Carnegie uses the example of Theodore Roosevelt,
Okay.
who was known for his vast knowledge and engaging conversations.
I remember reading that Roosevelt had a wide range of interests,
Oh, yeah.
from politics and history to nature and wildlife.
He was a true Renaissance man.
He was.
And his secret to captivating conversation,
Tell me.
he would stay up late the night before a meeting, reading up on his guests' interests
Wow.
so he could speak their language,
Yeah.
engage with them on a deeper level.
That's dedication.
It is. It is.
But it also shows genuine respect for the other person.
Absolutely.
He wasn't just trying to, impress them with his own knowledge.
Right.
He was genuinely interested in learning
Right.
about what mattered to them.
Exactly.
And this principle isn't just about impressing important people.
No.
It applies to all of our interactions.
Carnegie shares a story about a man who spent an entire evening talking about boats, even though he had no personal interest in them.
That seems a bit counterintuitive.
It does, right.
Why would he spend his time talking about something he wasn't interested in?
Because he was a true gentleman.
Okay.
He recognized that his guest was passionate about boats
Yeah?
and wanted to make him feel comfortable and engaged.
Okay.
It was an act of selfless generosity, putting his guests' needs and interests above his own.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most selfless act
Yeah.
is to simply put our own ego aside and focus on what interests the other person.
Absolutely.
It's about creating a space
Yeah.
where they feel comfortable being themselves,
Right.
sharing their passions.
Right.
We also see this principle in action
Okay.
with the story of the salesman who finally secured a bread contract after 4 years of trying.
He'd been so focused on selling his product,
Yeah.
bombarding the hotel manager with facts and figures,
Well-
that he completely overlooked the manager's passion for the greeters,
Oh.
a local hospitality organization.
So he was so caught up in his sales pitch that he forgot to build a human connection.
Exactly.
And once he tapped into that interest,
Yeah.
the conversation flowed effortlessly and the deal was sealed.
Right.
It wasn't about high-pressure sales tactics.
Right.
It was about finding common ground,
Right.
building a genuine connection.
Right.
It's a reminder that finding shared interests can be the key to building rapport and trust.
It is.
It creates a sense of camaraderie. It makes it easier to, move the conversation forward.
Now, the final principle in this section is one that speaks to our deepest desires.
Okay.
Make the other person feel important and do it sincerely.
This seems like a culmination of all the principles we've discussed so far.
It is.
Genuine interest,
Yeah.
appreciation, listening, finding common ground.
Right.
It's about recognizing the inherent worth and value of every individual and making them feel seen, heard, and appreciated.
You've hit the nail on the head.
I try.
And Carnegie starts off by, paying the listener a compliment.
Oh, how sweet.
He acknowledges their intelligence and insight for choosing to explore this material.
Okay.
It's a subtle but effective way to make the listener feel appreciated and respected.
It's like he's saying, I see you. I value your time and attention.
Right? Exactly.
It's a great way to set the tone
Yeah,
for a positive and engaging interaction.
absolutely.
And he follows this up
Okay.
with a powerful story
Okay.
about a woman who gave away her cherished Packard car
Wow.
to someone who showed her genuine appreciation.
Wow, that's amazing.
She had been craving recognition and connection, and when she found it, her gratitude overflowed.
It's a reminder that sometimes the most valuable gifts are those that come from the heart.
Yeah.
It's not about material possessions.
Right.
It's about those intangible expressions of appreciation,
Right.
care, and respect that touch the soul.
And then there's the story about the man who received a valuable puppy and expert advice
Okay.
simply by admiring the owner's dog breeding expertise.
I love that. It's funny how genuine compliments and interest can open doors,
Yeah.
create opportunities.
Right.
It's about recognizing and acknowledging the talents and expertise of others.
It's like that saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
That's a good one.
Yeah. But in this case, it's more like compliment a man on his fishing skills.
Yeah.
And he might just give you a fish, teach you how to fish, and become your fishing buddy for life.
I like that. That's good. That's a great analogy.
I thought so.
And finally, we have the story of George Eastman, the founder of Kodak.
Okay.
Despite his incredible success and wealth, he still craved recognition and appreciation.
I guess even the most successful people need to feel valued,
Hmm.
appreciated. It's a human need that transcends, status and achievement.
It is, yeah.
And he found that recognition in the most unexpected place
Oh, yeah.
from a theater chair salesman
Okay.
who genuinely admired his office.
Okay.
I'm guessing this wasn't just a quick sales pitch.
No. Instead of rushing through his sales pitch,
Oh, yeah.
the salesman took the time to connect with Eastman on a personal level.
Right.
He admired the craftsmanship of Eastman's office, sparking a conversation that lasted for hours.
So he focused on building a relationship first
Yeah,
and making the sale second.
exactly. And in the end, the salesman secured the contract not because of his product,
Yeah.
but because he made Eastman feel valued and appreciated.
It's a powerful reminder that even the most successful people crave genuine connection and recognition.
Absolutely.
They want to feel like they matter, not just for their accomplishments, but for who they are as human beings.
That's a great summary of this principle.
Thank you.
It's about recognizing that everyone, regardless of their status or achievements, wants to feel important.
Right.
And when we take the time to make them feel that way,
Yeah.
we not only build stronger relationships,
But we also open the door to greater influence and collaboration.
Exactly.
Now, before we move on to the next section,
Okay.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts
Okay.
on these 6 principles.
Okay.
Which ones resonate most with you?
Wow. I'm already seeing these principles play out in my own life. I'm starting to pay more attention to how I interact with others,
Mm-hmm.
from the way I greet them
Right.
to the way I listen to them.
That's great.
Just like a whole new world of possibilities has opened up.
It has, hasn't it? Yeah.
I'm especially drawn to the principles of becoming genuinely interested in other people and making them feel important.
Oh, 2 good ones.
I think those two principles go hand in hand.
They do.
When we show genuine interest in others,
Mm-hmm.
we naturally make them feel important.
Right.
And when we make people feel important,
Yeah.
they're more likely to open up to us, trust us, and be influenced by us.
That's a great insight.
Thank you.
It's all about shifting our focus from ourselves to others.
From what we want to what they need.
Exactly.
It's about creating a win-win situation where everyone feels valued and respected.
Right.
Now, are you ready to delve into part 3,
I am.
where we explore how to win people to your way of thinking.
Absolutely. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Oh, I like this.
I'm ready to learn how to put these principles into action and become a more persuasive and influential communicator.
That's what we're here for.
All right, let's dive into part 3. How to win people to your way of thinking. This is where things get really interesting. We're moving beyond just like building likability to actually influencing beliefs and actions.
You're right. This section gets into the nitty-gritty of persuasion.
Okay.
And Carnegie kicks it off with a bold statement.
Yeah.
You can't win an argument.
That's a pretty provocative statement.
It is.
Especially coming from a book about, winning friends and influencing people. Isn't persuasion all about presenting the best argument?
Yeah.
And convincing the other person that you're right?
That's the common misconception.
Right.
But Carnegie argues that approaching disagreements with a win-lose mentality is actually counterproductive.
Okay.
It creates resentment, damages relationships, even if you manage to win the argument.
I can see that. I mean, when I think about arguments I've had in the past, even when I felt like I was right, it often left me feeling drained and disconnected from the other person. There was a sense of victory, but at what cost?
Exactly. And Carnegie uses an anecdote about a misattributed Shakespeare quote.
Oh, okay.
To kind of illustrate this point. He talks about how two scholars got into this heated debate over the authorship of a particular passage.
Okay.
And, they both presented these compelling arguments, but in the end, their disagreement only served to damage their relationship and hinder their collaboration.
It's a reminder that sometimes it's better to, let go of the need to be right.
Right.
And focus on finding common ground.
Yeah.
But how do we navigate disagreements without, sacrificing our own beliefs and values?
That's where the next principle comes in.
Okay.
Show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say, you're wrong.
Good advice.
Right.
Yeah.
And Carnegie introduces the story of Ben Franklin.
Okay.
A master of diplomacy, persuasion.
I remember reading about Franklin's role in drafting the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
And negotiating treaties with France during the Revolutionary War.
It's true. Yeah, he was a brilliant statesman, diplomat.
Yeah.
And his secret weapon, respect and humility.
I like it.
He learned early in life that expressing his opinions modestly and avoiding direct confrontations led to more pleasant, productive conversations.
So instead of telling people they're wrong, which immediately puts them on the defensive, we should focus on understanding their perspective and finding points of agreement.
Exactly.
Right.
Carnegie provides a great example of this in action. Okay.
A lumber salesman successfully resolved a customer complaint by acknowledging his company's fallibility and allowing the customer to, vent their frustrations.
Okay.
He didn't interrupt, argue. He just listened attentively.
Right.
Validated the customer's feelings.
You like that saying? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
When we show empathy and understanding, it creates a sense of trust.
Right.
And makes people more receptive to our perspective.
Precisely. And sometimes the best way to win someone over is to admit when we're wrong.
Okay, I like that.
So that's the next principle. If you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically.
This one's definitely tough for most people.
I know, right?
It's not easy to swallow our pride and admit when we've made a mistake. It feels counterintuitive, like we're, weakening our position.
It's a natural human tendency to want to, defend ourselves, justify our actions.
Yeah. But Carnegie argues that admitting our mistakes quickly and emphatically is actually the most effective way to move forward.
Okay.
It shows integrity, builds trust.
Right.
And allows us to learn from our mistakes.
He shares a personal anecdote about his dog, Rex.
Oh.
And a run-in with a policeman.
Okay.
So Carnegie's dog was running loose without a leash.
Uh-oh.
And when confronted by the officer, he immediately took responsibility for his actions.
Good for him.
He didn't make excuses or try to shift blame. He simply admitted he was wrong.
And the result?
The policeman let him off with a warning.
Wow, nice.
It's a reminder that taking ownership of our mistakes can disarm a tense situation, earn us respect, and even get us out of trouble.
That's right, yeah.
We also see this principle play out in the business setting.
Okay.
With the story of the man who openly admitted to a mistake in front of a client.
Oh, wow.
Instead of trying to cover up his error, he owned up to it, apologized sincerely. I'm guessing the client wasn't too happy about the mistake.
He Think so, wouldn't you?
I would?
But instead of losing the client's business, he actually gained their respect.
Oh, wow.
The client appreciated his honesty,
Yeah.
willingness to take responsibility, and their relationship actually became stronger as a result.
It's a powerful reminder that vulnerability can be a strength, not a weakness.
Absolutely.
Being willing to admit our faults and flaws can actually make us more relatable and trustworthy.
I agree.
Okay, what's the next principle in Carnegie's persuasion toolkit?
It's called A Drop of Honey, and it highlights the power of kindness and understanding in overcoming resistance.
I love the imagery of that title.
Okay, good one, right?
It suggests that a little bit of sweetness can go a long way in smoothing out rough edges and making people more receptive to our ideas.
Exactly.
Right.
And Carnegie shares the story of John D. Rockefeller Jr.
Okay.
and his approach to dealing with striking minors.
Okay.
And, this was a highly volatile situation with strong emotions and conflicting interests on both sides.
I can't imagine those are easy conversations.
I know, right?
It takes a lot of courage and composure to stay calm,
Yeah.
collected in the face of, like, anger and hostility.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
But instead of meeting anger with anger, Rockefeller chose a different path.
Okay.
He focused on building relationships,
Yeah.
showing empathy, finding common ground.
Oh.
He visited the miners' homes, met their families, listened to their concerns,
Wow.
expressed his genuine care for their well-being.
It's a reminder that sometimes the best way to disarm an opponent is to treat them with kindness and respect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
By humanizing the situation and seeing the other person's perspective, we can create a more conducive environment for dialogue and understanding.
Exactly. And this principle isn't just about dealing with, major conflicts or political negotiations.
Right.
It applies to our everyday interactions as well. Carnegie follows this up with a personal anecdote about securing a lower rent by taking a friendly and appreciative approach with his landlord.
Okay.
Instead of complaining or arguing, he complimented the landlord
Okay.
on the well-maintained property, expressed his gratitude for being a tenant, and appealed to his sense of fairness.
It sounds like he used a combination of appreciation and strategic flattery to achieve his goal.
You could say that, yeah.
Yeah.
He understood that people are more likely to respond positively to requests when they feel good about themselves and the person asking.
Right.
It's about creating a positive and collaborative atmosphere rather than an adversarial one.
So it's not just about what we say, it's about how we say it. Our tone, our body language, our attitude, it all plays a role in how our message is received.
Absolutely. Okay, the next principle takes us back to the importance of listening.
Okay.
It's called let the other person do a great deal of the talking.
I'm sensing a theme here.
You are.
Yeah, it seems like listening is a recurring motif in Carnegie's philosophy of persuasion.
It is. It is.
It's about putting the focus on the other person, understanding their needs and perspectives, and creating a space where they feel heard and valued.
You're right, yeah. It's not about passively listening while the other person drones on and on.
Right.
It's about actively engaging with them, drawing them out, encouraging them to share their thoughts and feelings.
I imagine this principle requires a certain level of self-control.
It does. It does.
It's so tempting to jump in with our own opinions, solutions, especially when we feel passionate about the topic at hand.
But Carnegie argues that resisting that urge to dominate the conversation can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
He uses the example of a bank depositor who refused to answer certain questions on a form.
Okay.
Instead of forcing the issue, the bank employee took a step back and simply listened.
I'm guessing that approach didn't go as planned.
Actually, it worked brilliantly.
Oh, wow.
Through this process of listening and allowing the depositor to express his concerns, he actually talked himself into opening the account.
That's amazing.
Right.
It's amazing how sometimes the best way to persuade someone is to simply give them the space to convince themselves.
Right.
By listening attentively and asking clarifying questions, we can guide people toward their own conclusions without forcing our opinions on them.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, the next principle builds on this idea of empowering others.
Okay.
It's called let the other person feel that the idea is his or hers.
This sounds like a clever way to get buy-in and ownership.
It is, yeah.
It's not about dictating solutions, but rather collaborating, co-creating.
Right.
Right.
It's about giving people a sense of agency, making them feel like they're a part of the solution, rather than just being told what to do.
Right, exactly.
And Carnegie shares the example of Adolf Seitz,
Okay.
a sales manager who needed to, like, motivate his discouraged team.
Okay.
So instead of dictating his own ideas, he invited his team to share their expectations and aspirations.
Oh, I like that.
He asked them, what do you want to achieve this year? What are your goals? How can we work together to make them a reality?
What a brilliant approach.
Right.
By empowering his team and giving them a voice,
Yeah.
he not only gained their buy-in,
Right.
but he also tapped into their creativity and motivation.
And the results speak for themselves.
I bet.
By incorporating his team's input, he created a sense of ownership,
Yeah.
buy-in, leading to this dramatic increase in sales.
It's a reminder that collaboration and shared ownership can lead to far more effective outcomes than top-down directives.
Absolutely.
It's about tapping into the collective wisdom and energy of the group,
Right.
rather than trying to control everything from the top down.
Right, yeah.
Okay, what's the next principle on our persuasion journey?
It's called try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. This principle echoes the idea of empathy that we've discussed throughout this deep dive.
It's about stepping outside of our own limited perspective and trying to understand the world through someone else's eyes.
It is, yeah.
It's about recognizing that our way isn't the only way,
Right.
and that there are multiple valid perspectives
Absolutely.
on any given issue.
Carnegie shares a relatable story
Okay.
about this husband who constantly criticized his wife's lawn care efforts.
No.
He couldn't understand why she spent so much time and energy on something that seemed so trivial to him.
Right.
But once he took the time to understand her perspective,
Right.
to see the lawn through her eyes,
Yeah.
his entire attitude shifted.
I'm guessing it wasn't just about the aesthetics of a perfectly manicured lawn.
You're right.
Yeah.
For his wife, the lawn was a source of pride and accomplishment.
Oh.
It was a symbol of her care and dedication to their home and family. It was an expression of her love and creativity. Once the husband understood that, he was able to appreciate her efforts and stop criticizing her.
It's a reminder that even in seemingly mundane situations, taking the time to empathize with the other person can make a world of difference.
Absolutely.
It's about understanding the why behind their actions,
Right.
rather than just judging the what.
Exactly.
Right.
And then we have be sympathetic to the other person's ideas and desires.
Okay.
This principle reminds us that everyone has their own hopes, dreams, struggles, and
Yeah.
aspirations.
Right.
It's about recognizing the humanity in others,
Oh, yeah.
treating them with compassion and understanding.
Okay.
Carnegie begins this section with a powerful question. Wouldn't it be great to have a magic phrase
Yeah.
to stop arguments and create goodwill?
I wish.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And he then shares a personal anecdote about a geography blunder he made during a radio broadcast.
Oh.
So he mispronounced the name of a well-known geographical feature, and a listener sent him this scathing letter
Oh, no.
criticizing his ignorance and lack of professionalism.
I can imagine how embarrassing and frustrating that must have been. It's easy to get defensive when someone attacks our intelligence or competence.
But instead of lashing out
Right.
or ignoring the letter, Carnegie chose a different path.
Okay.
He responded with this, simple, heartfelt apology, acknowledging his mistake and expressing his appreciation for the listener's feedback. He wrote, "I am deeply grateful to you for taking the time and trouble to point out my error. You have rendered me a real service."
That's amazing. I would never have thought to thank someone for criticizing me.
Right.
What was the listener's response?
The listener was completely disarmed by Carnegie's humility and sincerity,
Oh, wow.
and he wrote back, apologizing for his harsh tone and expressing his admiration for Carnegie's work. They actually ended up becoming friends.
Oh, that's great.
It's a reminder that choosing kindness over anger,
Yeah.
empathy over ego, can often lead to more positive and fulfilling outcomes.
It's a powerful reminder that everyone makes mistakes.
Absolutely.
What matters is how we handle those mistakes.
Right.
Do we get defensive and try to shift blame?
Right.
Or do we take responsibility, apologize sincerely, and move forward with grace and humility?
Okay, on to the next principle,
Okay.
which is appeal to the nobler motives.
Okay.
This principle highlights the power of tapping into people's higher aspirations and values.
It's about appealing to their sense of idealism,
Right.
their desire to, make a difference,
Yeah.
to contribute to something larger than themselves.
Carnegie shares the story of a man who was tasked with collecting overdue bills.
Okay.
Instead of taking this hard-nosed approach,
Yeah.
threatening legal action or using, like, shame tactics,
Right.
he appealed to his customers' sense of fairness,
Okay.
responsibility.
Okay.
He wrote to them explaining that the company was struggling
Right.
and that their timely payments would help to keep the business afloat. Okay.
Protect the jobs of its employees.
That's a very different approach than most collection agencies take.
Right.
It's about appealing to people's better nature
Right.
rather than resorting to, like, fear or intimidation.
And it worked.
I bet.
You know, the customers responded positively
Yeah.
to his appeal, and the company was able to recover a significant portion of its outstanding debt.
It's a reminder that most people want to do the right thing. They want to feel good about themselves and their contributions to the world.
Absolutely.
By appealing to their nobler motives, we can often inspire them to act accordingly.
Now, the next principle sounds like fun.
Oh, okay.
It's called dramatize your ideas.
Okay.
This principle is all about making your ideas come alive, capturing attention, leaving a lasting impression.
Okay.
It's about going beyond, like, dry facts and figures,
Right.
using storytelling, imagery, emotion to engage your audience.
Okay.
And Carnegie shares the story of a rat poison window display
Oh, okay.
that featured live rats. That's certainly one way to grab attention.
It is.
You know, it's not for the faint of heart, but it's definitely memorable.
It was a bold move,
Yeah.
but it effectively dramatized the product's effectiveness.
Right.
People stopped to watch, captivated by the spectacle, and sales soared.
It's a reminder that sometimes we need to be a bit creative and theatrical
Right.
to, like, cut through the noise
Yeah.
and get our message across.
It's about finding ways to make our ideas stick in people's minds. We also see this principle play out in a more subtle way
Okay.
with the story of a man
Okay.
who secured a meeting with this busy executive
Okay.
by writing a dramatic letter that highlighted the urgency of his request.
Okay.
So instead of sending, like, a generic request, he crafted this compelling narrative,
Okay.
painting this vivid picture of the problem he was trying to solve
Right.
and the potential benefits of his solution. He appealed to the executive's emotions, making him feel the urgency and importance of the situation.
It's a reminder that storytelling is a powerful tool for persuasion. It allows us to connect with people on an emotional level and make our ideas more relatable and memorable.
Okay, on to the next principle. Throw down a challenge.
Okay.
This one taps into people's competitive spirit,
Right.
desire to achieve.
I can see how a challenge can be a powerful motivator.
Oh, yeah, it is.
It pushes people to step outside their comfort zones and strive for something greater.
Carnegie shares the story of Theodore Roosevelt,
Okay.
who was hesitant to run for governor
Okay.
until a political rival challenged his courage.
Oh, wow.
This challenge ignited Roosevelt's fighting spirit and propelled him into the political arena.
It's amazing how a well-placed challenge can inspire people to, like, rise to the occasion.
It can.
It taps into their desire to, like, prove themselves, to overcome obstacles, and to achieve something meaningful.
We also see this principle at work in the story of Louis E. Laws, who became the warden of Sing Sing prison after being challenged to take on this, difficult and daunting role.
Right.
He was initially hesitant,
Right.
but the challenge awakened a sense of purpose,
Right.
determination within him,
Yeah.
and he went on to become this highly successful,
Wow.
respected warden.
It's a reminder that sometimes the best way to motivate ourselves and others
Yeah.
is to set ambitious goals and then challenge ourselves to achieve them.
Now, the next few principles focus on the art of constructive criticism.
Okay.
It's about giving feedback in a way that's helpful, not hurtful, that inspires growth, not defensiveness.
Okay, I like that.
Okay. First up, begin with praise and honest appreciation.
Okay.
This principle echoes the importance of, recognizing and acknowledging the good in others,
Right.
even when we're also addressing areas for improvement.
It's like that sandwich technique I've heard about. Compliment on top, constructive criticism in the middle, another compliment on the bottom.
I like that. Yeah, it's about cushioning the blow of criticism with
Right.
positive reinforcement.
Right, exactly.
Carnegie uses the example of Charles Schwab, who, upon encountering employees smoking in a no-smoking area,
Oh,
simply handed them cigars and asked them to smoke outside.
that's such a clever and classy way to address the issue.
Right.
Yeah, he acknowledged their desire to smoke
Yeah.
while also enforcing the rule in a way that was, like, respectful,
Mm-hmm.
even humorous.
It shows respect for the individuals while still upholding the standard.
Right.
The next principle is call attention to people's mistakes indirectly.
Okay.
This principle is all about preserving people's dignity and helping them save face.
Okay.
It's about offering guidance and correction without making them feel ashamed or embarrassed.
It's about being tactful and discreet rather than confrontational or judgmental.
Carnegie shares the story of Sergeant Kaiser,
Okay.
who encouraged his soldiers to get regulation haircuts
Okay.
by setting an example himself,
Okay.
rather than directly criticizing those who weren't in compliance. He understood that, publicly shaming his soldiers
Right.
would only create resentment and resistance.
Right.
So instead, he led by example,
Yeah.
got his own haircut
Okay.
to regulation length,
Yeah.
and subtly encouraged his soldiers to follow suit.
It's a subtle but effective approach.
Yeah.
Actions often speak louder than words, and people are more likely to follow a leader who, embodies the values,
Right.
behaviors they're promoting.
Then we have talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person.
Okay.
This principle is about building trust,
Yeah.
showing that we're all human,
Yeah.
prone to making mistakes.
Right.
It's about creating a sense of shared vulnerability and fostering a more, supportive and collaborative environment.
It's like that saying, people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones.
That's a good one.
When we acknowledge our own imperfections, it makes it easier for others to do the same.
Carnegie shares the story about Lyman Abbott, who received some harsh criticism from his wife about a sermon he had written.
Okay.
Instead of getting defensive or dismissing her feedback, he acknowledged that he'd made mistakes in the past
Right.
and was open to her suggestions for improvement.
Okay.
It was a humbling experience, but it ultimately strengthened their relationship and helped him become a better writer,
Yeah.
speaker.
It's a reminder that humility and self-awareness are essential qualities for effective leadership.
Absolutely.
When we're willing to admit our own faults and flaws,
Yeah.
it creates a safe space for others to do the same.
Right.
And it fosters a culture of, continuous learning and improvement.
I agree.
Okay, what's the next principle in our exploration of constructive criticism?
It's ask questions instead of giving direct orders.
Okay.
This principle highlights the power of empowering others,
Right.
encouraging their participation.
Yeah.
It's about inviting collaboration rather than imposing our will on others.
It's about giving people a sense of ownership and agency rather than treating them like, robots to be programmed.
Right, exactly.
I can see how this approach would be far more effective in motivating people
Absolutely.
by inspiring your best work.
Carnegie provides a simple example to illustrate this point.
Okay.
Instead of saying, get this report done by tomorrow, try asking, do you think you could have this report ready for me by tomorrow?
Okay.
It's a subtle shift in language,
Yeah.
but it makes a big difference in terms of tone and approach.
The first statement feels like a demand.
Yeah.
Well, the second feels like a request.
Right.
It's about inviting collaboration
Yeah.
rather than dictating orders.
Exactly.
Right.
The next principle is let the other person save face.
Okay.
This is about recognizing the importance of preserving people's dignity and self-esteem.
Okay.
It's about finding ways to offer correction.
Yeah. Expert
Yeah.
speaker.